I had just finished thanking everyone for coming when the room shifted in a way I can still feel in my jaw. Not emotionally, physically. A woman I didn't know stepped out of the crowd and walked straight toward my husband. She was confident, not drunk, not nervous. Her heels clicked like she belonged there. She smiled at him first, then turned to me as if I were an accessory she'd finally been introduced to. She wrapped her arms around him. It wasn't a polite hug. It wasn't quick. It was intimate in a way that doesn't ask permission. Then she looked at me and said, clearly, loudly enough for the people nearest the cake table to hear, "Thank you for being so gracious about sharing him." The word sharing hit the room before my brain caught up. Someone laughed. Not because it was funny, because people do that when they don't know what else to do. I felt my face stay still. No smile, no collapse, just still. "I'm sorry," I said. "Can you repeat that?" My husband stiffened under her arms. He didn't pull away. She glanced at him, confused now. Her smile wavered. "Oh, I thought you knew." The silence spread fast. Glasses stopped clinking. Someone lowered their phone halfway. My daughter was across the room with her cousin, thankfully distracted, but I could see my sister's eyes widen, sharp and protective. I turned to my husband. Knew what? He opened his mouth, closed it, looked at the floor, then at her, then at me. 14 years of marriage, and that was the longest pause I'd ever seen from him. "Elise," he said quietly, like volume could save him. "Can we talk about this later?" Later. I nodded once. Then I looked back at the woman. "What's your name?" She hesitated. It doesn't matter," I said. "How long?" Her eyes flicked again to my husband. He didn't stop her. "Almost a year," she said. A year. My birthday banner hung crooked behind her, gold letters spelling my name. Someone had lit the candles too early. Wax dripped down the sides. I felt heat crawl up my neck, but not the kind that makes you cry. The kind that sharpens everything. "You've been sleeping with my husband for almost a year," I said, making it a statement, not a question. She nodded, slowly now. "He told me you had an understanding." The room breathed in together. I turned to him. "Did you tell her that?" He finally pulled out of her arms. "Elise, this isn't yes or no." His silence was the answer. I scanned the faces around us. Friends I'd hosted. People who'd eaten at my table. A couple of them already knew. I could see it now. The stiffness. The guilt. The way their eyes wouldn't meet mine. My husband stepped closer. "You're making this worse than it needs to be." That was it. Not the affair. Not the lie. Not the humiliation. That sentence. I reached for the microphone still resting on the stand beside me. I didn't tap it. I didn't test it. I just spoke. "I didn't invite this woman," I said evenly, "but I appreciate her honesty." A ripple moved through the crowd. "I'm Elise. I've been married to this man for 14 years. We have a daughter. This is my birthday party." I turned to him. "And this conversation is over." His face drained. "Don't do this." "I'm not doing anything," I said. "I'm leaving." I took the gift bag from the table, the one my daughter had picked out, and walked past him. He followed me, hissing my name, grabbing my wrist just outside the elevator. "Stop," I said, pulling free. "Do not touch me." People were watching now, not pretending anymore. "You're embarrassing me," he said. I looked him dead in the eye. "You embarrassed yourself." "I'm just not cleaning it up." The elevator doors opened. I stepped inside alone. As the doors closed, I saw the woman standing frozen near the cake, suddenly unsure where she belonged. I saw my sister already moving toward my daughter. I saw my husband's reflection. Small, frantic, exposed. The doors shut. Downstairs, the night air hit me hard. Austin traffic hummed like nothing had happened. Music floated from another rooftop nearby. Life continued, rude and unbothered. I stood there for a moment, phone buzzing in my hand with messages I didn't open. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I was done. I walked to my car, sat behind the wheel, and stared straight ahead. 14 years, a year-long lie, a room full of witnesses. He thought this would end with apologies, with explanations, with me managing the damage. He was wrong. As I pulled out of the parking garage, I made myself one promise: quiet, steady, irreversible. He took my dignity in public. I would take everything else in the open. By the time I got home that night, the house felt unfamiliar in a way that made my chest tighten, not because it was empty, because it suddenly felt exposed. Every photo on the wall told a version of our story I'd helped polish. College graduation, our first apartment with mismatched furniture, the day we signed papers on this house, my house, paid for with money my mother left me when she died. He'd called it our fresh start. I'd called it an investment. I was the one who insisted my name stay first on the deed. That should have been my first clue about who I really was in this marriage. We met when I was 24 and working long hours in finance, already earning more than he was. He was charming, ambitious, always talking about what he would build. I believed in him. I believed in us. When he decided to leave his job to launch his startup, I carried the weight without complaint. I handled the bills. I tracked every account. I told myself this was temporary, that partnerships meant uneven seasons. When our daughter was born, I stepped back even further. I shifted to consulting so I could be home more. I packed lunches, scheduled doctor visits, handled school logistics. He stayed late, traveled more, said it was necessary. I believed that too. There were warning signs. I see them now like marks I chose to erase. The guarded phone, the sudden passwords, the way he'd step outside to take calls, the unexplained charge I let him brush off because it was easier than pushing, the distance in bed that he blamed on stress, then on me being tired. I remember once asking him directly if there was someone else. He laughed, actually laughed. "Elise," he said, "you watch too many shows." I apologized. That's the part that still makes my stomach turn. Our finances were always ours, but I was the one who made them work. His income was unpredictable. Mine was stable. The house, the college fund, the emergency savings, all things I protected quietly. He liked to call himself the provider. I let him. It seemed important to him. I didn't know I was protecting myself at the same time. The night of the party, after I put my daughter to bed and she finally asked why Daddy wasn't home, I told her the truth in the simplest way I could. "Your dad broke a promise," I said. "And I need some time to figure out what comes next." She nodded. "Too mature for 11. Then she said, "Is that why Aunt Marcy stopped talking to you?" The room tilted. "What do you mean?" I asked. She shrugged. She heard him on the phone a long time ago. She told Dad it was wrong. He got mad. I sat there, numb. Marcy had known. My own sister. And she'd chosen to stay quiet, maybe out of fear, maybe out of loyalty to the idea of peace. I understood her reasons. I just couldn't forgive them. Later that night, my best friend called. She didn't ask questions. She just said, "I'm so sorry." "How long?" I asked. A pause. Then, "Since last spring. Almost a year." She told me about the lunches she'd seen, the work trips that weren't, the way he'd introduced the woman as a consultant. She'd waited, hoping it would end, hoping he'd tell me himself. Everyone had been waiting, except me. That was when it became real. Not a misunderstanding, not a moment of weakness. A sustained, deliberate second life built on my silence and labor. I walked through the house after that call, opening drawers, checking files, looking at everything with new eyes. The marriage wasn't just emotional, it was legal, financial, parental. This wasn't about heartbreak. It was about survival. I realized something else then, something cold and clarifying. He hadn't just betrayed me. He'd underestimated me. He thought I was the soft place to land, the buffer, the woman who would absorb the impact so he could walk away intact. He was wrong about that too. By the time I turned off the lights and lay down alone in our bed, the grief had shifted into something heavier and more useful. Resolve. This wasn't going to be a dramatic collapse. It wasn't going to be screaming or pleading or trying to understand why. I already understood enough. The betrayal was real. The witnesses were real. The damage was measurable. And I wasn't walking into this blind anymore. I was walking in prepared. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was spiraling, because my brain was finally quiet enough to work. At 5:30, I got out of bed, showered, and dressed like it was a normal weekday. No pajamas. No sitting on the edge of the tub crying. I needed my body to understand that this wasn't a breakdown. It was a transition. I dropped my daughter at school myself, kissed her forehead, told her I loved her, didn't mention her father. She didn't ask. The moment I pulled out of the parking lot, I made the first call. A lawyer. One I'd used years ago for a contract dispute. Calm voice. Efficient. No drama. I need an emergency consult, I said. Marriage dissolution. Infidelity. Child involved. Assets mixed but traceable. He didn't ask why. He asked dates. By 10 a.m., I was sitting in his office with a legal pad, listing accounts I'd memorized years ago but never thought I'd need to weaponize. House, deed history clean. Inheritance, documented. Savings, joint, but primarily funded by my income. Business account, his name, but commingled transfers. Freeze what you can, he said. Today. I nodded. Already working on it. From the parking garage, I logged into our shared accounts and moved what I was legally allowed to move. Not hiding, not stealing, just protecting. Emergency fund into my personal account. College savings untouched. Mortgage auto pay paused. I didn't leave a note. I called the realtor next, the same woman who'd helped us buy the house. I need a valuation, I said, quietly. She didn't ask questions either. People in this line of work rarely do. Then I called my employer, told them I'd be unavailable for meetings that afternoon. No explanation needed. My reputation carried weight. That at least he hadn't damaged. By noon, my phone finally rang. His name lit up the screen. I let it ring. A text followed. Where are you? We need to talk. I didn't respond. Another call. Another text. You're overreacting. Please don't do anything you'll regret. That made me smile. Just a little. I walked into the bank branch I'd been using for 15 years and asked for a manager. Explained the situation plainly. Asked what could be locked, what required signatures, what notices would be sent. Some of this will alert him, she said carefully. That's fine, I said. I'm not hiding. I'm acting. At 3, my lawyer called back. Temporary custody filing ready. You'll need to sign today if you want it filed first thing tomorrow. Yes, I said. Send it. When I got home, the house was still empty. His car gone. I moved through the rooms methodically, packing a single suitcase with essentials and documents. Birth certificates, insurance papers, tax returns, flash drive with backups I'd started keeping years ago after a scare with a corrupted laptop. I wasn't leaving because I was scared. I was leaving because I was done sharing space. At 4:30, my phone buzzed again. This time it was a bank notification. Account access changed. Less than a minute later, my phone rang. I answered. What did you do? He demanded. No greeting, no apology. I protected myself, I said. You can't just lock me out of my own money. Talk to the bank, I said. Or your lawyer. You'll need one. Silence. Then, you're really doing this. Yes. You're going to destroy our family. I leaned against the kitchen counter and closed my eyes. Not from pain, from clarity. No, I said. You did that. I'm just not pretending it didn't happen. His voice cracked. Where are you? Not available. Elise. Please. That word used to work on me. It had carried years of expectations, forgiveness, patience, silence. It landed flat now. You should focus on explaining things to your girlfriend, I said. I hear misunderstandings are common. He inhaled sharply. This isn't how it was supposed to go. I almost laughed. That's the point, I said. Goodbye. I ended the call, turned off my phone, and zipped the suitcase closed. By the time he realized what was happening, I was already moving, and I had no intention of slowing down. The consequences didn't arrive all at once. They came in waves, small at first, then overlapping, then impossible to ignore. By the next morning, his name was no longer attached to the account he used most. He discovered that when his card declined at a coffee shop 2 blocks from his office. I know because he told me later, voice tight, embarrassment leaking through his anger. At 9:30, my lawyer forwarded me a copy of the temporary custody filing. Filed first. Clean. Emotionless. Exactly how I wanted it. By 10, my phone started lighting up again. Not from him. From other people. A friend I hadn't spoken to in months. A neighbor asking if everything was okay. Someone from the party who'd meant to check in. I responded to none of them. Silence is efficient. It makes people talk to each other instead. At 11, his mother called. I didn't answer. At noon, my sister showed up at my door. She looked wrecked. Guilt does that. I should have told you, she said before I could say anything. Yes, I replied. You should have. She flinched. I let it sit there between us. Then I hugged her anyway. Not because it was resolved. Because it wasn't the priority. My daughter ate lunch in the kitchen, headphones on, pretending not to listen. I watched her carefully. She was quieter than usual, sharper, absorbing everything. At 2, the realtor called with preliminary numbers. The house was worth more than we thought. That changed the math. Dramatically. By mid-afternoon, his world was starting to tighten. He showed up at the house unannounced. I watched him through the security camera while I stood in the guest bedroom, suitcase already packed, phone off. He tried the door, then knocked harder. I didn't answer. He left, came back, left again. I later learned he'd gone to her place. She didn't let him in. That detail came from a mutual friend who couldn't resist updating me. She's panicking, she said. Didn't think it would blow up like this. Of course she didn't. Mistresses never imagine consequences. They imagine upgrades. By evening, the story had spread. Not the version he would have chosen, but the one people saw with their own eyes. A woman thanking another woman for sharing her husband doesn't stay private. Screenshots circulated. Speculation bloomed. People remembered details they'd ignored before. Patterns sharpened. He tried to get ahead of it. A carefully worded post appeared online around 7. Vague language. Difficult season. Misunderstandings. Privacy for our family. No apology. No accountability. Just fog. It backfired. Comments filled in the blanks for him. Someone posted a photo from the party. Someone else asked why he'd brought his girlfriend to his wife's birthday. Someone tagged me, then untagged me. He called again that night, over and over. I didn't pick up. At 8:30, my lawyer emailed me. He contacted his firm today. They're scrambling. He didn't anticipate the financial lockout. Good. At 9, his brother texted me. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I believed him. At 9:15, her name popped up in my messages. I stared at it for a long moment before opening it. I didn't know he lied to you like that. I never would have. I didn't let her finish. You knew he was married, I typed. That's enough. I blocked her. By the time I tucked my daughter into bed that night, she asked a question that landed harder than anything else. Are we going to be okay? I smoothed her hair back. Yes, I said without hesitation. We are. She nodded, trusted me, rolled onto her side. That trust sharpened my resolve in a way nothing else could. Late that night, I turned my phone back on briefly. 23 missed calls, dozens of texts, 1 voicemail. I listened to it once. Elise, he said, voice thin now, stripped of certainty. Please, I don't recognize you. This is going too far. I deleted it. He was starting to feel it. The loss of access, of control, of narrative. The ground under him was shifting, and he didn't know how to stand without me steadying it. That was the first real consequence. Not the money, not the embarrassment. The realization that I was no longer managing the fallout. And for the first time since the party, he understood something I'd known all along. This wasn't a phase. It was the beginning. The second confrontation wasn't accidental. It was scheduled. The temporary custody hearing was set for a Wednesday morning, downtown, glass and stone building that smelled like paper and disinfectant. I arrived early, dressed plainly, hair pulled back, nothing theatrical. I wasn't there to perform. I was there to finish something. The hallway outside the courtroom was already busy, lawyers murmuring, parents avoiding eye contact. A few reporters lingered farther down, not for us specifically, yet, but because mess travels fast once it has a scent. He arrived late. That was typical. He looked different. Not ruined, not broken, just thinner around the edges, like someone who hadn't slept and didn't know where to put his hands. His brother was with him. The woman from the party wasn't. That absence spoke louder than anything she could have said. When he saw me, relief flickered across his face. Brief, instinctive. He took a step toward me, then stopped when he saw my lawyer beside me. "Elise," he said softly, like we were co-parents meeting for coffee. I didn't respond. The clerk called our names. We stood, walked in, sat on opposite sides. The hearing itself was short. Facts over feelings. Dates. Documentation. The judge listened. Asked questions. Took notes. My lawyer didn't raise his voice once. Neither did I. His lawyer tried to frame it as a misunderstanding that had escalated unnecessarily. The judge glanced at him over her glasses. "A misunderstanding lasting nearly a year?" she asked. "With a child involved?" The room went quiet. Temporary custody granted. Financial restrictions upheld. A date set for the next phase. 15 minutes. That was all it took to formalize what he'd been trying to deny. When we stepped back into the hallway, the tension hit immediately. Phones came out. Whispers resumed. Someone recognized me from the party. Someone else recognized him. He reached for me then. Not physically, but emotionally. "This doesn't have to be so hostile," he said. "We can still handle this privately." I turned to him for the first time that morning. "Privately?" I repeated. "You brought your girlfriend to my birthday." People nearby stilled, heads turned. "That's not fair," he said, voice rising despite himself. "You're trying to destroy me." I smiled, not kindly. "No," I said, "I'm letting people see you without my help." That was the moment. Someone behind us inhaled sharply. A woman to my left murmured, "Wow." He flushed. "You planned this." "Yes," I said. "I planned to stop protecting you." His brother stepped back, as if the ground had shifted under him too. The woman from the party appeared then, at the end of the hallway. I hadn't expected her. That was the only surprise. She looked smaller now, no heels, no confidence. She stopped when she saw us, eyes darting between my face and his. "This is too much," she said to him. "I didn't sign up for this." He stared at her, stunned. "You said—" "I said I didn't know," she snapped. "And now everyone knows." She looked at me, then away. "I'm done." And she walked out. Just like that. No speech, no apology. Just abandonment. Phones came up again. Someone whispered her name. Someone else laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. He stood there, exposed on all sides, and finally understood what was happening. The narrative had moved on without him. He turned back to me, voice low. "You didn't have to humiliate me like this." I met his eyes. "You humiliated me in front of people who mattered to me," I said. "This is just the echo." My lawyer touched my arm. "Time to go." As we walked toward the exit, someone called out, "Elise?" I stopped, turned. A woman from my daughter's school. PTA meetings, carpool rotations. someone who'd smiled at me for years. "I just wanted to say," she said carefully, "you handled that with a lot of strength." I nodded once. "Thank you." By the time I reached the steps outside, my phone buzzed. A message from a number I didn't recognize. "That line you said in the hallway. It's already everywhere." I didn't need to ask which one. I didn't look back at the building. I didn't look back at him. The second humiliation wasn't loud. It was clean. And it traveled faster than he ever did. By Thursday morning, he realized silence wasn't saving him. It was burying him. His post from earlier in the week had stalled out, half-liked by coworkers who didn't know what else to do, ignored by the people who actually mattered. The vague language no longer worked. People wanted clarity, and clarity was the one thing he didn't have. So he tried to take control. At 9:15, a longer statement appeared, carefully drafted. Passive voice doing heavy lifting. He acknowledged mistakes. He emphasized shared responsibility. He framed the affair as something that developed during a difficult period and suggested the public reaction was being fueled by misinformation. He didn't name me. He didn't name her. He implied I was emotional, vindictive, overreacting. That was his mistake. Because by the time that statement went live, I already had everything organized. I hadn't leaked anything myself. That mattered. What happened next didn't look like revenge. It looked like correction. A former colleague of his commented first, just one line. "So was the consultant on your expense reports your misunderstanding too?" Others followed. Someone posted a screenshot of a dinner receipt dated the night he'd told me he was flying out for a client meeting. Another shared a cropped photo from a conference, his arm unmistakably around her waist. Someone else tagged the rooftop venue, reminding everyone whose birthday it had been. The internet doesn't need direction. It needs permission. Within an hour, the tone shifted. People stopped asking questions and started connecting dots. His statement became a reference point for contradiction. Every attempt he'd made to soften the story hardened it instead. He called me mid-morning. I let it ring. Then again. Then a text. "You're letting lies spread." I responded once. "Tell the truth then." That was all. By noon, a local account reposted the party footage. Blurry, distant, but clear enough. The hug, the words, my stillness, his silence. Someone clipped my line from the courthouse hallway. "I'm letting people see you without my help." It became a caption. Then a quote graphic. Then a thread. He didn't know how to respond to that. His firm released a statement shortly after. Neutral, cautious, distancing, personal matters. Ongoing review. The word review echoed louder than anything else. I watched it all from my kitchen table, laptop open, legal documents stacked neatly to one side, my daughter coloring quietly across from me. She looked up once. "Is Dad in trouble?" "He's facing consequences," I said. "That's different." She nodded, accepted it, went back to her drawing. By afternoon, the woman from the party deleted her accounts. That, too, spoke volumes. People speculated. Some defended her. Most didn't. She disappeared without explanation, leaving him alone to absorb the impact. The story no longer needed a villain duo. He was enough. He tried again around 4. This time, he sent a message to a group chat we used to share with friends. Long, emotional, defensive, a plea disguised as reflection. No one responded. I watched the read receipts appear one by one. Then his brother left the chat. Then his cousin. Then someone removed him entirely. That was when panic set in. He showed up at my office building unannounced, security calling me down to the lobby. I didn't go. "Tell him I'm unavailable," I said, and that he should schedule communication through counsel. The guard hesitated. "He says it's urgent." "So is respecting boundaries," I replied. He left without seeing me. That night, my lawyer forwarded another update. Opposing counsel requested emergency mediation. They're losing ground fast. I smiled at the screen, not from satisfaction, but from recognition. This was the part where he realized the story had escaped him. He tried to reframe. He tried to minimize. He tried to paint himself as misunderstood. But receipts don't argue. They wait. By the time the hashtags started, his name paired with words like betrayal, coworker, birthday, the outcome was already sealed. He had spent years curating an image I'd helped maintain. Respectable, reliable, family-oriented. All it took to dismantle it was the truth, placed side by side with his lies. Late that night, another voicemail came through. "Elise," he said, voice hoarse now. "Please, make it stop. This is ruining my life." I listened to it once, then I deleted it. He was wrong about one thing. This wasn't escalation for its own sake. This was gravity, and he was finally falling without me holding the rope. Once the noise died down, the real damage began. That's the part no one posts about. The court dates, the paperwork, the slow, irreversible dismantling of a life that had depended on momentum and denial. His firm placed him on administrative leave the following Monday. Not fired, not yet, but suspended pending review. That phrase showed up everywhere after that. Bank emails, legal correspondence, family group texts, pending review, pending decisions, pending consequences. The house went on the market quietly. No photos of smiling families. No open houses with wine and music. Just numbers and square footage, and equity he no longer had access to touch. My lawyer moved efficiently. Motions filed, accounts documented, transfers traced, nothing hidden, everything precise. He tried to contest the custody arrangement. That failed. The judge didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. She cited timelines, travel records, statements made under oath. The affair wasn't even the centerpiece. His instability was. Supervised visitation granted. Temporary. Review in 90 days. I didn't celebrate. I documented. His parents called me next, not together, separately. His father went first. He didn't apologize. He asked questions, detailed ones, about money, about timelines, about whether I intended to ruin the family. "I intend to protect my child," I said. "Everything else is a result." That call ended quickly. His mother cried, asked if I could forgive him, asked if I remembered how much he loved me once. "I remember," I said. "That's why this hurts. But love doesn't cancel behavior." She didn't argue. She just went quiet. A week later, I learned they'd stopped paying his legal fees. That was the moment his safety net disappeared. His brother withdrew entirely, unfollowed him, blocked him, stopped returning calls. I heard through a mutual that he'd said, "I can't defend this anymore." Even his sister, the one who used to host holidays, made it clear he wasn't welcome until things were resolved. Resolved, as if truth had an expiration date. Financially, the collapse was swift. Joint credit lines closed, business expenses scrutinized. A client quietly terminated a contract. Another asked for reassurances he couldn't give. He tried to refinance. Denied. He tried to access the emergency fund. Gone. He tried to negotiate. Too late. The mistress didn't resurface. Not publicly. Not privately. Her name disappeared from conversations, then from memory. Whatever consequences followed her were her own. She was no longer relevant. He was. He sent one last message through his lawyer asking for mediation to preserve assets and dignity. My response was brief. Proceed through court. By then, the house sold, above asking. I signed the papers without ceremony. No tears, no flashbacks, just signatures. I moved into a smaller place across town. Clean, bright, mine. My daughter adjusted faster than I expected. Children do when the tension leaves the room. She slept better, asked fewer questions, started talking about school again instead of watching faces for mood shifts. She didn't miss the version of him that had lived with us. That was hard to admit. The final financial ruling came down on a Tuesday afternoon. Asset division upheld. Custody maintained. Support structured. His objections dismissed. When my lawyer called, I sat at my desk and listened quietly. "You're secure," he said. Long term. I thanked him. Hung up. Went back to work. I heard later that he'd moved out of his apartment, that he was staying with a friend, then a different friend, then no one. I didn't confirm it. I didn't need to. The last time I saw him before the final hearing, he looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically. Structurally. Like something essential had been removed and never replaced. He tried to speak to me in the hallway. I walked past him. That was the end of his leverage. Not the court ruling, not the money, not the family turning away. The end was when he realized I was no longer reachable, emotionally, strategically, or otherwise. The fallout wasn't dramatic. It was thorough, and it was permanent. The final meeting wasn't ordered by the court. It was requested. He asked for it through his lawyer first. A short message framed as closure. Resolution. One last conversation. I declined. Then he asked again. This time he asked directly. Please, I need to hear it from you. I didn't owe him that, but I agreed anyway. Not for him, for myself. We met in a quiet public place, a cafe near the river, late afternoon. Enough people around to keep things civil, not enough to feel crowded. Neutral ground. No history attached to the walls. He was already there when I arrived. He stood when he saw me. Hesitated, sat back down. I didn't hug him. I didn't smile. I didn't rush. I ordered coffee, black, sat across from him, set my bag on the chair beside me like a boundary he couldn't cross. For a moment, neither of us spoke. He looked older, not in years, in posture. His shoulders sloped forward like he was carrying something too heavy and didn't know where to put it down. I didn't think it would end like this, he said finally. I wrapped my hands around the cup. I did. He flinched. You always were decisive. And that used to sound like admiration. Now it sounded like blame. I loved you, he said quickly, as if volume could resurrect credibility. I still do. I didn't react. That's not the same thing as respect, I said. He nodded, too fast. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But this... He gestured vaguely. This is punishment. No, I said calmly. This is consequence. He leaned forward. I made a mistake. I met his eyes. You made a series of choices, over time, with planning. Silence stretched. I was lonely, he said. I didn't feel seen. I took a slow breath. Not because it hurt, because I wanted to be precise. You felt supported enough to build a second life, I said. That's not invisibility. He swallowed. I never meant to humiliate you. And yet, I replied, you did it in front of everyone. He looked away. I thought you'd forgive me, he said quietly. You always forgave me. That landed. I felt it then. The clarity of it. The reason this meeting had been necessary at all. You didn't think I'd forgive you, I said. You thought I'd manage it. He opened his mouth, closed it. You thought I'd smooth it over, I continued. Protect your image. Keep things functional. Absorb the damage. That's not fair, he said weakly. It's accurate, I said. His hands shook slightly as he lifted his cup. He didn't drink. I lost everything, he said. My job, my family, my home. I didn't interrupt. I'm barely holding on, he went on. I need to know if any of this mattered to you, if I mattered. That was the question he'd been building toward. The emotional hook. The last attempt to anchor himself to something familiar. I set my cup down gently. You mattered, I said. Past tense. His face crumpled, just a little. Can't we... He stopped himself. Tried again. Is there any chance we could fix this? Not now. Eventually. I shook my head once. No drama. No pause. No? The word landed cleanly between us. You're being cold, he said, a hint of anger bleeding through the desperation. I'm being clear, I replied. Cold is what you felt when you lied to me for a year. He stared at the table. You don't have to be this cruel. I leaned back slightly. I'm not cruel, I'm finished. That was the moment he understood. Not that I wouldn't reconcile, that I wasn't emotionally negotiating anymore. You planned all of this, he said. You turned everyone against me. I met his gaze without blinking. I told the truth. What people did with it wasn't my responsibility. You destroyed me, he said. I tilted my head. You destroyed the version of yourself that depended on my silence. He looked up sharply. That's the difference, I continued. I didn't take anything from you. I stopped giving. The cafe door opened. Laughter drifted in. Someone ordered pastries. Life continued, indifferent to his collapse. I don't know how to live like this, he whispered. That's not my problem anymore, I said gently. I stood, picked up my bag. Elise, he said, panic rising again. Please. I paused, not because I was tempted, because endings deserve intention. I turned back once. You lost me the moment you thought honesty was optional, I said. Everything after that was just paperwork. He said my name again, softer this time. I didn't answer. I walked out into the afternoon light, the door closing behind me without ceremony. No slam, no echo, just quiet. And for the first time since my birthday, I felt something loosen in my chest. Not relief. Freedom. 8 months later, my life looks ordinary again. That's how I know it worked. The mornings are quiet. I wake up before my alarm, make coffee, pack lunches. The kind of routine that used to feel invisible now feels earned. I don't rush. I don't brace myself before opening my phone. I don't scan rooms for tension that doesn't belong to me anymore. We live in a smaller place now. A townhouse with light-colored walls and windows that face east. My daughter picked her room first. She chose yellow curtains. Said it made the mornings feel happy. I let her paint one wall herself. It isn't perfect. Neither are we. She's stronger than she was last year. Not hardened. Just steadier. She talks more, laughs louder. She doesn't flinch when adults raise their voices in public anymore. She trusts the floor beneath her feet. That matters more to me than anything I took from him. Work expanded in ways I didn't anticipate. People noticed my focus, my clarity. I stopped apologizing for taking up space. I stopped downplaying competence to make other people comfortable. Opportunities followed. Not because I chased them, because I was finally standing still enough to be seen. Sometimes people ask how I handled it all so calmly. I don't correct them. Calm is what it looks like after you decide not to betray yourself anymore. I don't hear his name much now. When I do, it's usually followed by a pause, an awkward shift in conversation. He's become someone people reference vaguely. A cautionary footnote, not a presence. The last update I received came secondhand. He moved again, changed industries, still fighting to stabilize something that doesn't want to stand. The details don't interest me. He doesn't interest me. That's the real transformation. Not the financial security, not the court victories, not even the public vindication. It's the absence. The silence where his chaos used to live. On my birthday this year, we didn't throw a party. My daughter and I went to dinner, just the two of us. She wore a dress she picked herself. She toasted me with lemonade and said, "I'm proud of you." I didn't ask why. I didn't need to. Later that night, when the house was quiet, I sat on the couch and let myself think about the woman I was before all of this. The one who managed. The one who forgave. The one who absorbed. I don't judge her. She did what she thought love required. But I don't live there anymore. Betrayal didn't break me. It clarified me. It showed me exactly where I'd been shrinking to keep someone else intact. It taught me that loyalty without boundaries isn't virtue. It's erosion. Freedom didn't arrive with fireworks or relief or sudden happiness. It arrived quietly. With locked doors I no longer check twice. With bank accounts I don't monitor for damage. With mornings that begin without dread. If there's one thing I know now, it's this. You don't heal by winning. You heal by leaving what no longer deserves you. And once you do, You don't look back. Not because it hurts, because there's nothing left there worth returning to. Before you go, thank you for staying with this story until the end. If it resonated with you in any way, click the hype button and let me know you felt it too. I'd love to hear your thoughts or your own experience in the comments. You're not alone here. And if stories like this matter to you, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Your support helps this channel grow, and it means more than you know.